What is going on, guys? It's December. We're getting closer and closer to the new year, and what's that? Oh, Konami just released a new ban list. What? Time to start off the new year with a bang. So yesterday, Konami released a ban list that's going to be effective starting December 15th, so in just about a week. I figured I'd bring to you guys what I think the meta is going to start to evolve into. Pretty much everybody else has done a reaction video, so I figured I wouldn't really be bringing a whole lot of value there if I just did another reaction video just like everybody else. So I kind of wanted to give my thoughts on what this might mean for the meta. Now keep in mind that I am no expert by any means. I am pretty much just like another Yu-Gi-Oh player just like everybody else, but I have seen the meta change from here and there. And I have gone over quite a few ban lists in my time, so I can kind of get an idea of what might change in the future. And I just kind of wanted to bring some light onto what I think that might be. So if you haven't already seen the ban list or what's on it, I recommend checking that out or checking out any other Yu-Gi tuber who has already covered or done like a reaction on the ban list. I would definitely recommend checking out one of their videos. That way you can get an idea of what's already on there, because I'm not really going to be covering specifically what got hit, just more so how the meta might change depending on what got hit. So first of all, we're going to start off with everything that got forbidden. So the first card on the list, I think, is everybody's pretty much favorite to get hit, the Buster Dragon Destruction Sword. I don't think anybody is opposed to this getting hit on the ban list, to be honest. It's one of those cards that if your opponent brings it out, you just can't play Yu-Gi-Oh! So I think everybody's pretty stoked about that, except for maybe like the 3 Monarch players that exist on the planet, pretty much. Almost any modern Yu-Gi-Oh! Deck is going to be summoning out of the extra deck. So having this as like a lock is just ridiculous. Not to mention how easily it fits into decks like Dragon Link, which means that they can basically set up a board with like, 3, 4, 5, 6 negates, and then also have a Dragon Buster lock, which is just straight ridiculous. I don't think anybody was sad to see this card go. Next up, we have a pretty highly predicted contender, good old Link Ross. So Link Ross kind of needed to get hit. If Halki wasn't going to get hit, Halki was not going to get hit just because they were releasing a new mat with that. So there's no way they're going to hit Halki while releasing a mat as well. So Link Ross had to go. What I think this means, though, is that Dragon Link is going to be a little bit weaker now. Any combo decks can be a little bit weaker now. Infernoble Knights, things like that. So it really kind of takes out those spots in the meta. It doesn't take them out. Dragon Link is always going to find a way. It's always going to find a way. Dragons are just such a busted archetype, or just a busted type in general, that it's not going to be hard for them to find a replacement for that. Infernoble Knights, I think a little bit more so have been hit by that. They still have Auroradon though, which is going to be really useful for them, but hopefully there's a gap that can kind of cover the areas that Link Ross used to cover. I don't know of any off the top of my head, but I think that they're going to have to find something, and they probably will find something that will replace that in their combos. Another card that I think a lot of people weren't very sad to see go was the next one, which is going to be Smoke Grenade. It's been a huge problem ever since Infernoble Knights came out. Being able to rip several cards out of your opponent's hand, not to mention this is one of the more consistent ways to do that, because you still have times where you might not be able to rip something out with like Aqua Dolphin, or you might not always be able to go into Psy-Frame, Gamma, or whatever the Synchro Monster is without kind of at the cost of like another combo piece that you might need. So I think that Smoke Grenade the Thief definitely had to go, even though I recently just started playing Infernoble Knights. I actually really like them because they could rip a lot of cards out of your opponent's hand. Yes, I'm an asshole. And so I kind of wish we didn't have to see it go, and maybe we could hit Infernoble Knights in a different way where they could still kind of be that deck that, can potentially rip a card out of your opponent's hand or two. But I think that it's hard to hit that engine, at least effectively, and then also be able to keep Smoke Grenade the Thief. So I think it really had to go, unfortunately. But it was kind of a cool little trick that you could do and rip some cards out of your opponent's hand. But ultimately, it's not healthy for the game. Not to mention, you get to see your opponent's hand, so it's really kind of busted. I'm moving on to my personal favorite part of the list, the Limit list. Why is it my favorite, you might ask? Because they didn't hit Misk. I'm super glad they didn't hit Misk. Like I said, as a Dino player, I was expecting it. I thought it was going to happen. I thought for sure they're hitting it. They're going to limit it. Maybe even ban it. I highly doubt ban it, but I thought for sure they were going to limit it. I was crossing my fingers. Come on, give us a semi-limit. Keep this thing in the game. And luckily, they didn't hit it at all. So Dino's too strong, where they're going to come out there and destroy the meta, especially now that Link Ross got hit, Smoke Grenade got hit, Combo has pretty much gotten hit pretty hard. And so I think it's going to be a lot easier now for Dinos to dominate the meta once again. And I think that they're going to continue to be a force in the meta game, and I think that they are going to have to probably get hit on the next one. But we survived this one. That's all that matters. Speaking of not getting hit on the limited list, actually nothing got hit on the limited list, so that's not much to talk about there. Moving on to semi-limited, the only thing that got added on there was the True King's Return, and I don't really know too much about that. I don't think that anybody's really like for or against it, so I think it is what it is. As long as they don't bring back Masterpiece, I think that's pretty much all that really matters. That's basically the heart and soul of that deck, and that card is just absolutely busted. So I think that as long as they don't bring back Masterpiece, then that's fine. But also, I would also just really appreciate it if we just got rid of the semi-limited list in general. Like, what is that really doing for anybody? Having 2 malicious, I mean, is that really that important for heroes? If they have a third one, are they going to all of a sudden become tier 0 and just dominate the meta? I mean, I don't think so. They still get hit by Nibiru super hard, so, I mean, what's 3 malicious really going to do? Next off, the Unlimits. We got a lot of stuff on there in terms of just basically taking stuff off the list that, like, wasn't super necessary to have on the list in general. I mean, we just kind of had ABC Dragon Buster Quarantine on there, totally awesome. The Burning Abyss monster, stuff like that. And basically, I think what's going to come out of this ban list is that we're going to see a huge influx of the power of hand traps again, especially with Called being hit to 1 now. So I think that they can really start to affect the decks more heavily that weren't really affected by it before. So for example, combo, I mean, that especially like Dragon Links, that could play through like what, like 2, 3, 4 not negates, 2 or 3, 4 disruptions, pretty much, and still be totally fine. So I think that now with Link Cross being gone, I think that if you can time your hand trap disruptions pretty accurately, then I think you can hit combo a lot harder than how you used to be able to. Plus them being nerfed and not having the Call by the Grave, I think really helps out too. So I think it's going to allow a lot of the lower tier meta to kind of push their way up into the higher tier. You might see some things like Phantom Knights maybe might get an increase in popularity just because they're a little bit more playable and can like last through combo a little bit easier. We might see some other things. Zodiac, I think, is going to keep on climbing the ranks, especially with AA Zeus. That's just a busted card in general. I don't know why people were getting mad at Misk when you can literally summon AA Zeus and have double board wipes. I mean, I don't know. I mean, I think the obvious thing here is that dinosaurs are going to continue to just pretty much dominate the meta for at least a little bit. We might start to see some outpacing. We'll have to see kind of what Virtual World does. I think that without VFD or True King of All Calamities getting banned, I think that it's going to continue to just be a dominant deck as well. I think dinosaurs and Virtual World are going to be pretty popular. And then after that, we're going to have a lot of the decks kind of fighting for like that, you know, the next spot basically. I think that this format's going to start moving a lot more towards the slower format of being like more control heavy. We're going to see decks like Outlich really kind of pop in. Outlich Dogmatica, I think, is going to be really strong in this meta. It was already kind of gaining popularity in the last format, and so now I think it's going to continue to be a dominating force as well, continue to rise up the ranks a little bit, and just going to be a nice control deck. Overall, I'm pretty excited for this next format. I think it'll be pretty cool. Like I said, it's going to be more control heavy, I feel like, which I'm kind of more of a fan of myself. I was never a fan of like just these combo decks just popping off, putting in like, you know, 3 negates on the board and a Dragon Buster, and it just being like, well, what do you do to that, you know? And so I think that this next format's going to be a lot more control heavy. I think we might see a rise of Dragoon a little bit in play just because it's kind of more of a control card. And so I'm excited to see what this brings, and that's kind of it from my analysis. Like I said, it could be totally off, I could be right on the spot. I guess only time will tell. All right, catch you guys later.